Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney and Deputy Assistant Attorney General Harry Litman. Harry, I mean, I guess you could laugh if it wasn't so sad. You've been very vocal about your thoughts on the Gates nomination. You posted this quote saying, "Count this as the day where the DOJ is concerned that the suggestion, hope that Trump might install extreme but not crazy Republicans who are mortal threats to the rule of law was extinguished. Gates would absolutely win a parlor game contest of name the worst possible AG nominee." Care to expand on those thoughts?
Sure. Look, he's not only an awful choice, he's a perverse one. I don't have to amplify everything you heard from Congress. He's designed not to further the essential duties of the DOJ, not even to reform them, but to deliver a kick in the teeth. He is chosen exactly for that reason, to be a provocateur. I just want to say that within the Department of Justice, within the ranks of former members of the Department of Justice, Democrat, Republican, very wide, there is absolute distress and horror at the selection and real doubt about whether the Department of Justice can withstand what will obviously be an assault delivered by Gates. And look, Trump wants to be sure of loyalty for the slim possibility of being indicted or gone after himself. That is 0.01% of what the Department of Justice does, and the other 99.99% is essential to the Constitution, essential to the rule of law. It's a body blow, not just to DOJ, but to our democracy.
Yeah, I mean, and the bipartisan reaction was pretty fierce. I mean, almost across the board. And we heard from one Republican lawmaker, though, who said Gates does not need to be confirmed because it may be a recess appointment. Can Trump get away with that? I mean, I thought recess appointments were supposed to be rare.
They are supposed to be rare, and they also have to follow specific rules. It has to be a bona fide recess and the like. But the last 9 years have been a lesson in all the things Trump can get away with because he'll do it brazenly. The legal answer here, Jim, is it's a gray area, and he may not be able to do it. But just the fact that with 53 people in the Senate, his AG nominee is someone whom he may have to bypass the Senate for to keep the American people from airing the dirty laundry, and the great unpopularity that Gates has on the Hill tells you volumes about the nature of the choice. Stand by to see if he can make it happen with a recess appointment.
And is this does this help Trump go after his enemies? I mean, is that essentially why he's putting Matt Gaetz at Department of Justice? It sort of creates sort of a glide path for going after his enemies?
Yeah, and again, we are on such a narrow sliver of what the DOJ does. I think that's half of it, and the other half is to be totally sure that no one will go after him from there, that he has his Roy Cohn, that the entire Department of Justice is the Donald Trump law firm rather than the law firm of the people. That's the insurance policy that Matt Gaetz gives him. Remember, Gaetz himself came within an eyelash of being indicted, and his conduct is still being investigated and is still potentially live. It's a disaster all around.
All right, Harry Litman, thanks very much for your time and your thoughts. We appreciate it. Let's bring in CNN senior crime and justice reporter Caitlin Polans and CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig. Elie, let me start with you first. You write that Trump's nomination of Gaetz is a sign of dark intentions. Gaetz as United States Attorney General is almost an oxymoron. What do you mean by that?
It's, first of all, unfathomable, I think, to anyone who's worked in the Justice Department to have somebody of Matt Gaetz's background, just his legal background, in the office. I saw our graphic before said limited legal experience. We were being kind with that, Chiron. I mean,
there are a lot of people in D.C. didn't know he was a lawyer. I mean, talking to people yesterday in politics and media, just didn't know.
He practiced for a couple years on a very local basis in Florida. If that's your practice, God bless, but you're not equipped to become the United States Attorney General. He's certainly never been a prosecutor. Now, as to the dark intentions part of it, one of the biggest questions as we sit here 60-some, 70-ish days away from Donald Trump's second swearing in is, will he truly weaponize DOJ in the way that he has promised too. He has a long history of saying he was going to prosecute people and then it not happening. But is that different now? And I think the nomination of Gaetz is a dark indicator that he is serious about it, because that's the guy you would nominate to go after your political enemies. That's exactly the guy.
Yeah, I mean, for folks who are saying, oh, it's not going to be that bad, and, you know, maybe Trump has learned from the first administration and he won't make the same mistake. I mean, this is a sign that what he has learned is by having people like Matt Gaetz in there, he can get what he wants. Yeah. And Caitlin Polantz, I mean, what are you hearing from people at the Justice Department? Because what Harry Litman was saying a few moments ago is it sounds like this is sending shockwaves through the department.
Total shock. Yeah. Total shock. People that I was talking to yesterday were on very quickly on large text chains with attorneys at the Justice Department that they knew, and saying it was absolute disbelief in the ranks. This is a department that functions in courts across the country. More than 90 U.S. attorneys' offices have career prosecutors going into court every day, prosecuting regular Americans for federal crimes. And this is something that, with Gaetz having so little experience as a lawyer, not just that, no experience as a prosecutor, no experience trying cases. There are judges and there are ethics that lawyers have to follow. And we have seen in the past, when prosecutors lose faith in what their political leadership is doing at the Justice Department, people refuse to do what they're told. They go into court and they'll resign from cases. We saw that at the end of the Barr years. And judges do get mad at the Justice Department. Sure. They have to be able to have legitimate arguments and facts that they're presenting in court.
And Gaetz has long been a critic of the DOJ and other government agencies. Let's listen to that.
We either get this government back on our side, or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them, if they do not come to heel.
And Ellie, just yesterday, Matt Gaetz was still the focus of a House ethics investigation over allegations of sex crimes. What happens now that he has resigned from Congress, and will the ethics report ever be made public?
So the technical answer is that the House no longer has jurisdiction over him once he resigns. Whether it'll be made public, it could leak. The House can always sort of vote to release it. But I think that quote from Matt Gaetz sort of points up his fundamental unfitness, his fundamental lack of familiarity with what DOJ is. He says we're going to defund the FBI and ATF. I'm not sure he even knows what those, I assume he knows what the FBI is, but I don't know that he even knows what the ATF is. Yeah. You're going to defund these agencies. And another important thing, when people think of the Attorney General of the United States, they think of the guy or woman sitting over all of what I was, all the federal prosecutors. There's so much more to it. You are in charge of all those law enforcement agencies, DEA, ATF, FBI, the marshals, the prison system, the Solicitor General who decides what the government does in the Supreme Court. It is a position of astonishing power. And Matt Gaetz, I don't think, is in any position to actually exercise that responsibly.
And Caitlin, I want to look back at something that former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy told CNN earlier this year.
If there's anybody who should go to trial, I mean, Gaetz is one who should be convicted in a trial.
I mean, Caitlin, there have been Republican leaders who have been making very serious allegations about Matt Gaetz. And I guess one of the questions is whether or not we're going to find out what's in this House Ethics Committee report. Are we going to find out what this committee has uncovered as it pertains to Matt Gaetz's behavior?
I mean, that's really up to the House, but to put a point on what Kevin McCarthy is saying, they're clearly not friends.
They're not friends. Yeah.
But what he was saying is, what the House looked at and had been looking at in their ethics report is what the Justice Department and the FBI believed they had a reason to investigate criminally before a grand jury. For some time, there were witnesses, there were cooperating witnesses that testified against Gaetz. There were young women in this alleged sexual misconduct, sex trafficking investigation. He was not ultimately charged, but if he is the Attorney General, he would have access to that portfolio of his theoretical people he may perceive as his enemies, the witnesses against him, and all of the investigative files that the FBI would have. Maybe not the grand jury records. It's a question of how much the Justice Department can actually look at those. They're in the court system, but this is just an astonishing turn to have somebody that would have been investigated like that nominated for this position.
Ellie, if you want to go after your enemies or your perceived enemies, I mean, having control of the Justice Department, you would have basically access to the mother lode of information.
For sure. And here's the thing.
This is J. Edgar Hoover stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there are safeguards in place, but those don't really kick in until after there's been an indictment, right? Then you get, I mean, grand juries, look, I've said this before, prosecutors can get grand juries to indict almost anything, but then you have judges and juries and appeals courts and defense lawyers. But up until that point, when it's investigative, prosecutors have almost unfettered unilateral power. You can make someone's life miserable. Talk to anyone who's been investigated. Matt Gaetz should understand this. He was investigated and not charged. It's a miserable experience, and that's where I think a lot of the danger lies.
All right, Caitlin, Ellie, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Coming up.